Yo, it's me, it's the SCOTT. And, I just watched American Werewolf in Paris. I gotta say, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, but it's not a good movie. It's. I would venture to say it might be so bad it's good. One of those movies that could be a guilty pleasure for some people. So, after the success of American Werewolf in London, you think maybe there could be a sequel in the works. But it took 16 years before a sequel was even greenlit. Or a sequel even happened. And we got this. The story itself is not bad. It tells of three American tourists in Paris. They are adrenaline junkies. And when they decide to bungee jump off the Empire State Building, they encounter a woman who's trying to commit suicide. And one of them, Andy, our hero for the film, saves her, becomes infatuated with her, and they are lured into this underground werewolf cult led by Claude. And during this party, one of the friends, Brad, is killed by a werewolf. Chris, the other friend, gets out before the massacre even happens, and Andy is bitten on the leg, by another werewolf, and he wakes up in the girl's house. And so now it's basically, it's different, he's got werewolf powers, he doesn't believe that he's a werewolf, stuff like that. There's some things that are similar to the first film, and some that aren't, like seeing the dead people as victims, stuff like that. That's from the first film. Comedy being put into this. Similar to the first film, although the first film did it better. And having an American fall for a foreign girl like that. Love at first sight, like the first film. And having a dead friend talking to you. The similarities stop there. Unfortunately. I don't think I shaved good enough to do that. So, like I said, it's three friends this time instead of two. And they're invited to this party by Claude, he said that he takes care of this. Seraphine is the girl's name. Andy and his friends, they go on this, trip. And so, Andy is our main character. And Andy and his friends, Chris and Bradley, get invited to this party, but it's a werewolf smorgasbord. They eat American tourists. And, it's a full moon. And, so Chris leaves early so that he can go back to Seraphine's house to see if she's there. Because they say she's supposed to be going to that party, but she never intended to. They just want to eat them. So Chris leaves, leaving the other two behind. When Chris gets to Seraphine's house, he tells her what's going on, and she's in a cage because she turns into a werewolf. And so Chris is left behind, locked in the cage because he gets knocked unconscious, so he's safe. He's locked in the cage, and she goes, to save Andy and them. So she saves Andy, but Brad gets eaten. So Brad becomes the jack of the situation, showing up, albeit not as much. And they do this thing where after Andy's bitten, where he goes after this other woman and ends up killing her when he turns. And then she starts following him. And what's worse is that they change the rules in this. In the first film, there was only one way to stop the victims, going after you. That's for you to die. That's still true here. But now they say that the only way another way, like, Brad tells him that the only way his spirit can be free out of limbo, is um, if they kill the werewolf who bit him. That makes more sense than that actually makes more sense than the first film, to be honest. But it doesn't make sense in context of the first film because Jack was not killed. Jack was not killed by David in the first film. He was killed by the other werewolf who was already dead. Therefore, his spirit shouldn't be trapped. But it was. And now here they've decided, oh, he's trapped because the werewolf is still out there, but that doesn't make any sense in context of the first film. It's a love story like the first one, and I think it ends better than the first one. I think, with love story at least. Where the first one, David gets killed, and then it ends, blah, 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 bang, 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 But here, I think the love story works a little bit better as they marinate on it. Because in the first film, Alex isn't even around him all that much. He's alone for most of the film. Here, they do have a connection. They go back and forth, Also, it's hinted at in this film, but not really mentioned. Although, if you look it up, you'll find confirmation that Seraphine is the daughter of David and Alex from the first film. And one main hint, the father she has is her stepfather, who's inventing a serum to cure lycanthropia because she was already a werewolf when she was born. Her mother is shown, she killed her mother, and she sees her dead mother, and she's dressed like a nurse. So there's hints at it. The one thing is, I don't think the three friends dynamic works well here. Because at least I was expecting Chris to be a major part of this. That he was going to help. But he goes to the house, he escapes from the house, he's still outside in the bushes, and then he gets kidnapped by Claude. And then he doesn't show up again until the climax when he's strapped to the thing. You think he doesn't get out, and then we're shown at the end of the film he's there. And let's talk about the ending, because this stinks of reshoots. And there is actually an alternate ending. And the reason I figured this out, because I had to search it myself. Tom Everett Scott, who plays Andy, in the ending we get on the film, his hair is shorter. So is Chris's, but his hair is shorter. And I was thinking, this has to be a reshoot. His hair is shorter. Sometimes they do that. Like with Mallrats, Jeremy London's hair is longer in the opening because they had to reshoot it. Well, here it's shorter. He cut his hair after the film was done, and then they reshot the ending. In this theatrical ending, we'll call it, because Seraphine, he shoots at a werewolf, turns out to be Seraphine, and so she's in the ambulance, and she says, "Andy, I love you." And the stupid EMT's like, "Oh, my name is whatever, but whatever. And I'm open," or something like that. And then it cuts to several full moons later, and they are getting married, and then Chris is there. He miraculously survived. And they bungee jump off, but once again, like at the beginning of this film, to tie Andy's rope, so he has to try to grab it, but Chris doesn't grab it in time, but she grabs him, and they fall, and that's how it ends. But the original ending was actually, she actually sees her father, a vision of her father, because he died, and Claude killed him. But anyway, and she sees him, and he tells her there was a cure. And then we cut to several moons later, and Andy's going into a hospital room, and Seraphine has just given birth. And this is... And he's like, oh, Chris, you're here. And it's very obvious that they shot Chris separate from the rest of them. Because you see him standing there. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to see how it go. And he just standing there. His hair is shorter too, but he's like, you know, maybe they shot his parts later, added in. Because Tom Everett Scott still looks like he did, his hair and everything. But they're, disconnect. Also, the biggest sin this movie makes is using CGI when the first film had great practical effects. There are some practical effects, very, very little. Mostly CGI, and it's horrible. But I can look past that. This movie is somewhat enjoyable if you can look past the CGI. And when you watch older films, you can kind of do that. But it is terrible CGI. Also, I'm not sure which werewolf bit Andy. It's implied that it's Seraphine, but then when he's fighting Claude, he finds it's the one that he stabbed. Was that the one that bit him? I'm not sure. Overall, this movie's not as good as the original. I think it's decent. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. It's a decent watch. Just turn your brain off. You'll have fun with it, I'm sure. So let me know in the comments below. Make sure what you think of this film. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. See you in the next one.